Excluded from my son's celebration at my own estate, I discovered an amazing way to reveal hope. Jack stood by the tall oak door of the estate, half leaning against it, staring at the brick pathway that seemed to stretch into a memory he couldn't quite grasp. Laughter echoed in his mind, a stark contrast to the void that enveloped him now. Ben's graduation celebration happening without him. A chill streaked through his body as he faced the truth. He had been uninvited, a gesture that felt like a final nail in the coffin of their relationship. In one swift motion, the legacy he'd built from nothing crumbled, the very bricks stained with the memories of shared dinners and quiet conversations, now alien and inhospitable. The house felt hollow, each wall a testimony to a love he had fought for, now denounced as outdated by the whirlwind of change that was Ben's life. He recalled his son's fiancée, her disdainful gaze scraping at the dignity he clung to in every strained exchange. Jack's heart seethed with anguish. She and her vision didn't see what he had sacrificed on stone-laden paths to success. It was a tussle between who he was, a father and a creator, and who the world wanted him to be. A man with tangible walls, but no spirit. As he wandered through the vacant rooms, the air heavy with the absence of joy, a spark ignited within him. What if he could revitalize this place? Make it a beacon for the very creativity that had been stifled beneath expectations. The thought twisted inside him, battling anguish with determination. After all, his mother had always been the artisan of their hearts, a painter whose talent had flickered out in the shadows of practicality. She had left behind a legacy much like his own, withered dreams and unexpressed passions. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. He seized the brush and paint with a fervor he hadn't felt in years, slapping vibrant colors across the walls, marking the rebirth of creativity with every stroke. Jack envisioned the community gathering here, curating a space to foster art. He felt a rush of optimism and freedom, threading through his veins, a pulse to fill this void. Each repurposed piece of wood whispered to him, coaxing out the architect's original dreams, a design unchained by the confines of obligation. But the surge of hope crested too quickly, crashing as he heard a sudden knock on the door. Ben stood framed in the archway, eyes furious, words poised like arrows ready to strike. "You're ruining everything, Dad. This was supposed to be my future, my celebration. You just want to relive your glory days." The tension hung thick between them, a wall of disappointment and disillusionment that felt insurmountable. Jack's chest tightened with shame, heartbroken for standing at a crossroads where both love and art seemed futile. "This isn't about me, Ben. It's about finding who we truly are," he struggled to communicate, straining against the silence pressing upon them. Somehow they were both at risk of losing themselves entirely, one to his dreams, the other to expectations. The air crackled with unspoken words, teetering on the edge of confrontation. He didn't know if Ben would see this rebirth as a threat or an invitation. Jack's resolve held just as firmly as the walls around him, but he knew he needed to act, to bridge the gap before it consumed them both. Ben's words hung in the air like thick smoke, stinging Jack's throat. He stood frozen, caught in a storm of emotions, hurt, anger, and an undercurrent of fear. The vibrant colors he had splashed across the walls suddenly felt like a mockery of his own desperation. Jack wanted to reach out, to pull his son into a moment of understanding, but every instinct warned him against the rawness that lay ahead. They were on opposite sides of a chasm they had both helped create. "Do you really think this is about nostalgia?" Jack's voice trembled, caught between pleading and assertion. This is about doing what we both love, about embracing who we really are." Ben rolled his eyes, a gesture that struck Jack like a slap. "That's easy to say when you've abandoned all the responsibilities that come with it. You're playing with my future." His frustration swelled, a combination of youthful idealism and a deep-seated need for parental validation that Jack could no longer provide. In that moment, Jack realized the battle was deeper than mere disagreement over paint and design. It was a clash of generations, of dreams deferred, and of ambitions colliding. He faced the painful truth that he had allowed his aspirations to blind him to Ben's convictions. As the weight of that realization sank in, Jack's determination flickered back to life. What if we worked on this together?" The words felt foreign, but liberating, an olive branch in a forest of conflict. He could feel Ben's defensiveness shift ever so slightly, a crack in the armor he wore so well. "This space can be ours if we let it. We can create something meaningful, not just for you or me, but for us." Ben's expression softened momentarily, indecision playing upon his features. He still stood rigid in the doorway, but now the tension shifted like the tides. "You really think that knocking down walls and throwing paint around will make up for everything?" There was vulnerability in his tone, an unspoken question rattling beneath his bravado. Jack felt the corner of his heart tug at the small amount of hope emerging from their standoff. "I think it's a start. This could be a chance for us to speak honestly, to create and express ourselves without the fear of failure." He took a step closer, the space between them increasing in significance. Perhaps this was his moment, his opportunity to not only rebuild the walls of the estate, but to rebuild bridges with his son. "I'll step back. I'll listen if you let me in. We can find a way to merge our visions." Ben studied him carefully, the fight gradually draining from his posture. "How do I know you won't just revert to what you were doing before?" There was a flicker of doubt in his eyes. "You've pursued this so recklessly." With a deep breath, Jack felt exposed, yet resolute. "Because I'm ready to change. I'm ready to begin again, not only for me, but for us." The weight of those words settled between them, a promise wrapping around the disappointment of the past. Silence loomed, thick with potential as Jack wrestled with his own doubts. Would Ben see the sincerity in his eyes? Could they really navigate this complex terrain together? Finally, Ben's shoulders relaxed, the tension easing just enough for the fissures of understanding to take hold. Maybe we can talk about it." At that moment, Jack felt a surge of hope ripple through him, igniting sparks of a new vision that embraced not only art, but healing. It wouldn't erase past wounds, but it was a step, a tentative bridge across uncharted waters. As they began to discuss how to bring the space to life, Jack's consciousness buzzed with possibility. This was not just about colors and canvases. It was about connection and rediscovery, a chance to inspire not only art, but also a father-son bond once thought lost. But as they shared ideas, a nagging thought tugged at the edges of Jack's mind. What other sacrifices would he have to make to truly pursue this vision? And what darker shadows still clung to him from his past choices, ready to resurface at the most inopportune moment? With the weight of those questions looming, they dove deeper into their plans. Yet the certainty in Jack's heart was tinged with an unsettling anticipation. The time had come to face not only the expectations of others, but also the buried fears within himself. The atmosphere within the studio crackled with the energy of new possibilities, but beneath it all, Jack felt the distant rumble of unresolved issues. Each idea exchanged with Ben was both exhilarating and terrifying. With every brushstroke of a shared vision, Jack grappled with the reminder that he not only needed to rebuild their environment, but also to cultivate a more profound connection with his son. As they settled down over a tattered sketchpad, Jack watched Ben sketch designs, his brow furrowed in concentration. Jack's own hands trembled at the edges of creativity, itching to join in, but held back by both the weight of expectation and a lingering doubt in his ability to contribute meaningfully. Could he truly embrace this collaborative spirit he had proposed? Or would he default to old habits, undermining everything he sought to create? "It'll look great if we incorporate those textures," Ben suggested, tapping the pencil against the page. His excitement was palpable, and it fueled Jack's desire to participate. Still, Jack hesitated, recalling the moments when he'd overridden Ben's ideas in the past, chasing his own desires instead of honoring their shared dreams. Taking a deep breath, Jack ventured, "Why don't we think about what really matters in this space? Not just colors, but the emotions we want to evoke." Ben paused, the corner of his mouth lifting offensively. "Well, if we just focus on your nostalgia, then these walls will end up a museum of your regrets." Jack recoiled internally. The bitterness in Ben's tone struck hard. It forced him to scrutinize not only their plans, but also himself. Had he truly been so self-absorbed that he celebrated his past at the expense of Ben's present? The question hung in the air like an accusation. "No, I want us both to feel at home," he countered, trying to ground his voice in calm sincerity. "This place should reflect who we are now, and what we can grow into." A flicker of contemplation passed through Ben's eyes, and Jack seized the moment, leaving a space for Ben to explore that flicker. "Let's think about what you want. Maybe this can be a testament to who you are becoming, not just who I was." Ben considered this, a mixture of skepticism and curiosity weaving through his expression. "So, what do you have to offer, Dad?" The challenge lay bare, both a test of trust and an invitation to demonstrate growth. Jack felt the heat of responsibility pulse through him. "I can help you take these ideas and make them a reality, not from my lens, but from yours." He allowed a moment of silence, allowing his son's gaze to search his face. "Let me be part of your journey, and not the one dictating the path." Ben leaned back, tapping the pencil against his chin. What if it doesn't work out? What if we end up hating what we create together? The question caught Jack off guard. The panic of inadequacy settled again. What if this partnership unraveled, revealing his limitations? But rather than shying away, something inside him yearned to embrace the risk. "Then we'll just have to learn from the mistakes we make," he said, surprising even himself with the steadiness in his tone. "That's the only way to succeed, right?" For a long moment, Ben searched Jack's face, gauging the sincerity of his intentions. Then, slowly, he nodded, tentative, yet curious. They moved forward with smaller decisions, the location of each color splash, the placement of textures that evoked memories of late nights and shared laughter. Like a delicate dance, they played off one another's ideas, each brushstroke layered with significance. As they painted, Jack's mind wandered to the past, to moments when artistry became an escape rather than a connection. Could he push beyond those old barriers, embracing vulnerability without running away? With the sun dipping low, casting shadows across their newly transformed space, Ben stepped back to admire their work. "I think we're doing something cool here." A swell of pride and hope enveloped Jack, yet the shadows from his past loomed just beneath the surface. What challenges still lay ahead? Could he navigate the delicate balance of seeking affirmation while allowing Ben room to shine? With those looming questions, Jack felt the taste of uncertainty at the back of his throat. But as they stood together, he realized that facing those fears might be the very step he needed to ensure their relationship flourished, not just amid paint and walls, but in the very core of their beings. Yet, as he turned to face Ben, Jack caught a glimpse of hesitation shadowing his son's face. Something unsaid lingered in the air, a potential storm brewing just beneath the surface. What uncharted territory awaited them as they continued to explore this fragile connection? The studio buzzed with activity as the sun dipped further beneath the horizon, its fiery hues spilling across the canvas they'd created together. Jack's heart buzzed in tandem with the atmosphere, an exhilarating mixture of hope and tension. Yet beneath that joyous surface, uncertainty churned quietly. Could their recent creative endeavor morph into something more? The shadows of doubt he felt about his parenting, about his partnership with Ben, hung like heavy curtains around him. Ben picked up a roller covered in ochre and pressed it against the wall, the thick paint gliding effortlessly. Jack watched with admiration, feeling a pang of something deeper as he noted how seamlessly Ben worked. It struck Jack that his son's world was expanding, blossoming with ideas, while he grappled with his own limitations. Each stroke appeared to symbolize both a step forward and a reminder of his past missteps with Ben. Each splatter of paint was a reminder that Jack needed to redefine his approach, not only in artistry, but as a father. "You definitely have an eye for this," Jack remarked, trying to maintain a tone of encouragement, to bolster the burgeoning confidence in his son. Ben smiled, an expression that ignited warmth in Jack's chest, but it quickly morphed into a shadow of doubt. "Thanks, but I guess you're doing all right too," he replied, though the trace of sarcasm hinted that more lay beneath. Jack caught that hint, recognizing this wasn't just playful banter, it was an invitation to dig deeper. "What do you mean by that?" Jack asked, careful to keep his voice neutral, sensing that they were at a tipping point. He needed to draw that storm from beneath the surface into the light. Ben paused mid-roll, the tension palpable. "I don't know, Dad. I mean, you always paint your way. Is this really about us, or just a way for you to feel good about the past?" It hit Jack harder than he anticipated. Was his son right? Was he using this experience as a form of atonement? The fear of exposure struck, but instead of hiding behind a defensive wall, he leaned forward, compelled to confront what lingered unspoken between them. "I'm terrified that I've messed things up too much already," Jack admitted, swallowing down the lump of vulnerability that threatened to choke him. "But I want to try. I want this to be about both of us, about who we are now and where we want to go." Ben's expression shifted, revealing a flicker of understanding beneath skepticism. "But what if I don't want to go your way, or create a space just for you?" The challenge was clear, and it wasn't just a rhetorical question. Ben demanded clarity, assurance that this endeavor could stand as a monument to their shared future, not just a canvas of Jack's nostalgic ideals. Jack felt beneath the layers of frustration and fear a burgeoning respect for his son's growing independence. This was his opportunity to shed the dark shadows of past mistakes and embrace the present, however complex it was. "I want to support you. I really do," Jack replied, honesty lifting the burden on his chest. "Tell me what you want. Let's navigate this together." Ben stepped back, his posture softening as he surveyed their handiwork. "I want the space to feel alive, not just pretty. I want it to reflect who I am, who I'm becoming, not who you were." Jack inhaled deeply, sensing this was a turning point. "Then let's do that. Show me how you envision it, and I'll learn to paint it your way." Ben nodded, a resolve forming in his eyes. They turned to the unfinished wall, and with renewed purpose, they approached the true collaborative spirit that Jack had longed for. As the vibrant paint splashed against the white surface, Jack allowed himself to step back, to surrender the lead to Ben while remaining present and involved. But even as they painted, an uneasy thought nagged at Jack. He could feel a palpable tension still lurking, a storm that might arise if their choices didn't align. Was he truly prepared to see Ben step into his independence fully? Would he be able to relinquish the control he had so tightly clutched? As Jack painted strokes of Ben's vision onto their canvas, the exhilarating notion of growth thrummed in his veins. Yet, lurking just under that excitement was a whisper of anxiety. What would happen when they reached their limits, when their artistic collaboration hit the rocks? At that moment, Ben picked up a different color, ready to make a statement of his own. Jack paused, the brush hovering hesitantly in the air. This wasn't just about creating art. It was about crafting a new foundation for their relationship. In that precarious moment before Ben dipped the brush, Jack realized that the next step could either strengthen their bond or expose deeper fissures. The question lingered. Could they really navigate this fragile connection, or would it shatter beneath the weight of their intertwined histories? Jack could feel the weight of anticipation pressing against the air in the studio. Ben dipped his brush into a deep sapphire blue, his movements confident and assured. Watching his son unleash a vibrant burst of color upon the wall ignited something in Jack, an urge to break free from the confines of his own fears. He shifted his stance, ready to engage more fully, ready to relinquish the shadows of their past. "Let me help you with that section," Jack offered tentatively, stepping closer. Ben glanced up, skepticism flickering across his face momentarily before he nodded. "Sure." The word hung between them, almost as if he was measuring Jack's willingness to genuinely contribute. As they worked side by side, paint splattering onto the floor, Jack felt a spark of connection forming, a reminder of the time they used to spend together without barriers. The brush strokes began to sink, and the chaos of color started to create a visual dialogue neither had anticipated. Yet beneath this artistry, a question loomed large in Jack's mind. Would this collaborative effort translate into something more substantial? The foundation for a deeper father-son relationship? Or would he fail yet again? "Do you remember when you used to paint with me in the garage?" Jack stepped into the territory of nostalgia, trying to bridge the gap between the past and the present. Ben's brush slowed, and a small grin broke through, one that felt equal parts genuine and cautious. "Yeah, but I don't think this is like that. You know, we were just kids then." "I know, but we can still find that younger version of us somewhere inside," Jack replied, hopeful, yet aware that he was clinging to a memory of simplicity that might not exist anymore. The walls around them filled with vibrancy, each new layer revealing itself as a metaphor for their evolving relationship. Yet Jack's heart sank under the heavy awareness that nostalgia can often be used as a shield to avoid current realities. "What's wrong, Dad?" Ben asked, tilting his head, blue speckles dotting his forehead. "I guess I'm just trying to figure out how to truly support you, even if it means letting go of my own visions." The truth poured out before Jack could check himself. His willingness to bear his vulnerabilities created a sense of rawness that stunned even him. Ben kept working, the brush ceaseless in his hands. "You mean painting in colors I choose?" "Yes. And as we create this space, I want you to see it as a platform to voice your ideas." Jack sought to express an understanding that went beyond paint and canvas. Ben paused and considered his father's words. "You really think I have something to say?" The question lanced through Jack's heart. It echoed his own insecurities. "I think we both do," he replied. The moment was catalytic. Ben was now opening doors Jack had feared might be permanently closed. As their collaboration deepened, Jack felt an awakening bubbling within him. A painful reckoning with his own fears, but one that could be reframed as growth. "Let's make this place a canvas for both our thoughts, right?" Jack proposed, voice trembling with newfound resolve. "Right," Ben confirmed, adding a bold stroke of color that caught Jack off guard. There was a ferocity in his actions, an assertion of independence Jack had long waited to witness. Yet it wasn't just Ben splashing pigment that sparked the most significant change. It was Jack's realization. He had felt trapped in echoes of his past decisions, paralyzed by the fear of inadequacies that loomed over him like a dark cloud. But now, facing forward, he recognized that every brushstroke was a chance to redefine their shared history. The studio pulsed with energy. The paintings began to resemble a kaleidoscope, a tapestry woven with elements of both their identities. They were not just painting a wall anymore. They were constructing a bridge toward understanding, nurturing, and acceptance. Then, just as an overwhelming wave of hope washed over him, Ben turned and confronted Jack again. "But what happens if I decide to paint something you hate?" Jack inhaled sharply, the question striking him like a lightning bolt. He was teetering between a vivid promise of a transformed relationship and the terrifying possibility of rejection. Would he be able to stand back and allow his son the freedom to create? even if it meant watching his cherished ideals be challenged? The studio, once a space of mere creation, had transformed into a battlefield of emotions, and Jack realized the fight wasn't only for their artistic vision, but for the very essence of their connection. Could he truly embrace this collaboration if it meant wrestling with discomfort and fear of loss? As the sun dipped beneath the horizon outside, Jack felt the intensity of the moment stretch, the shadows gathering in the corners, waiting. "Dad?" Ben's voice snapped Jack back into reality. "I'm here," Jack replied, yet uncertainty swam in his chest. "Are you ready for me to take the lead?" That question reverberated through Jack's mind, both an invitation and a challenge. The potential for breakthroughs loomed before him, yet so did the risk of chaos. And in that moment, Jack sensed they stood on the precipice of discovery, poised to leap into uncharted territories of their relationship, a daring exploration of creativity, understanding, and perhaps a pathway to redemption. But with every stroke came a new uncertainty. How far would it take them before they found the real promise of their collaboration? In the charged atmosphere of the studio, Jack felt the weight of anticipation shift as Ben poised his brush over the canvas like a conductor ready to orchestrate a symphony. The question had hung there, heavy and unresolved. "Ready for me to take the lead?" It had taken an avalanche of vulnerability for Jack to open the door, but now the reality of what it meant loomed large. He glanced at Ben, whose blue-splattered shirt matched the vivid hues they had applied to the wall. Jack was both excited and terrified. Could he afford to let go of control, to trust Ben not just with paint, but with their relationship? This wasn't merely a creative endeavor. It carried the potential to either fracture or fundamentally heal their bond. "Yeah, lead the way," Jack replied, forcing himself to sound casual, yet he felt an electric pulse of anxious energy race through him. Ben's grin widened, filled with youthful defiance, and he moved with newfound assurance, splashing paint in directions Jack had never imagined. Each stroke emerged as a proclamation of intent, a potential articulation of ideas formed without his input. Watching Ben paint with that intensity stirred something inside Jack. It ignited not just pride, but a strange, chaotic blend of fear and elation. Ben was exploring his voice, bending the rules, and with that freedom came an unforeseen challenge to Jack's long-standing beliefs about artistry and conformity. Would he be able to embrace Ben's chaotic expression without letting his own ideals slip into judgment? "Try mixing some of that orange in," Jack suggested, trying to find a balance between encouragement and oversight. Ben's brows furrowed, but he followed the instruction, swirling the colors together in a bold decision that sent ripples of uncertainty through Jack. He was caught between wanting to preserve certain aesthetics and understanding that real art, much like their relationship, thrived in the unpredictable. Jack took a breath, attempting to still the tumult brewing within him. He sensed it was a crucial time to reassess. Could he genuinely allow his son to shine independently, even if it meant relinquishing his own artistic vision? The canvases were rapidly becoming an intersection of their identities, both beautifully complementing and clashing with one another. But could Jack truly bear the chaos that his son was creating? "Dad!" Ben's voice broke the tension, his eyes filled with a mix of uncertainty and hope. "What if I want to make it more personal?" The phrase struck deeper than expected, resonating with Jack's own insecurities. Their past was mired with unspoken pain and unmet expectations, and now, as Ben reached for brushes that had once symbolized their shared joys, a chasm of unresolved issues lay before them. "Personal is good, but are you sure?" Jack's heart raced at the prospect. The question had slipped out before his mind could catch it, a thought born more from trepidation than from support. "Yeah," Ben asserted, determination solidifying his voice as he continued to apply color without hesitation. "It's who I am." In that moment, Jack's heart twisted. He recognized a subtle shift occurring not just in the paint, but in their dynamic. This was an opportunity for growth, to redefine the way they interacted and perceived one another. Yet, with the realization came the intimidating knowledge that growth requires change, often painful. Jack took a step back, his instinct to control battling with a burgeoning urge to set Ben free. "Okay, just do it," he said, fumbling with the words, a cautious yield to Ben's artistic instincts. He sensed the shift between suppression and allowance. Was he ready to agree with whatever art unfolded before him, even if it challenged the ideals he had long held? As the paint spilled and clashed, Jack felt a wave of warmth sweep through him. It was a softening of the barriers he had unconsciously created, the rigid defenses around his heart beginning to crumble. This wasn't just a chaotic release for Ben. It was a revelation for Jack. His own fears had been shackling him, holding him back from truly understanding and accepting his son's evolving identity. Yet, as intense colors merged on the canvas, fears still loomed. The fear of losing what he believed to be right, or failing to convey how much he valued Ben's creativity. Would the resolute path they were on lead to a newfound appreciation or a heartbreaking rupture? Jack had to confront those fears head-on, even as they painted light and shadow together. With every stroke, there hovered the reminder of that single hesitative moment. Could he truly stand back, let Ben lead, and still find himself within the metamorphosis of their relationship? "Let's see where this takes us," Jack remarked softly, adding a tentative brush to the evolving palette. The air crackled with electricity, each move bridging vulnerabilities, stoking flames of authenticity. He no longer felt the studio was just a battleground. It was becoming a territory for self-discovery. But as they navigated through the kaleidoscope of colors, a creeping doubt lingered. Would this exploration unite them further, or expose fractures he hadn't anticipated? The stakes had grown, and Jack sensed the possibility that lay ahead, a leap into the unknown, fraught with potential peril but promising profound connection. Each brushstroke, a question of its own, echoed in his mind. How far were they willing to go in pursuit of understanding, and what revelation awaited them as they ventured deeper into this brave, uncharted territory? Jack leaned in closer, his eyes fixed on the vibrant chaos expanding across the canvas. The colors danced in disarray, and he felt an exhilarating mix of fear and admiration coil within him. Could this be the defining moment where he let go completely? As his brush swept across the surface, the lines began to blur, not just between paint colors, but between father and son, authority and collaboration. "More blue there," Ben called out, his excitement palpable, almost infectious. It stirred something within Jack. Instead of the lingering doubt that haunted him moments ago, he felt compelled to embrace this unpredictable journey. Jack knew that artistry thrived on risk. Each brushstroke that Ben employed was an act of fearless self-expression. For so long, Jack had played it safe, adhering to guidelines and aesthetic rules, convinced that structure was the pathway to greatness. Watching Ben rebel against those notions, however, was reshaping his understanding. He dipped his brush into a rich turquoise, thinking hard about not just the color, but what it represented, a chance, a choice, a new beginning. As he applied it clumsily yet passionately across the canvas, Jack felt his conviction solidify. Maybe this was about transcending the past and welcoming the present. Breakthroughs didn't always arrive through formula or planning. Sometimes they emerged from the reckless abandon of painting outside the lines. "What if we incorporated some of these darker shades too?" Jack suggested, feeling emboldened by the fearlessness radiating from Ben's strokes. Contrast could add depth, right? For the first time, he felt a partnership rather than a hierarchy forming. Ben looked up, curiosity flickering in his expression. "You think so?" His eyes sparkled with anticipation, a mix of validation and hope. "Definitely," Jack confirmed, his voice steady, reassuring. "Art is a reflection of all aspects, light and dark. You taught me that." There it was, a moment of recognition. As easy as it could have been to direct, to impose his own vision, he felt the necessity of honoring Ben's creativity. It was almost surreal watching his son grow. The mundane process of painting morphed into a shared experience, a catalyst for deeper connection. It was no longer just about mastering technique. It was about embracing the unknown together, a complex yet liberating dance. In the background, the gentle hum of the room filled the silence, mingling with the strokes of the brush. Jack allowed his focus to shift from the artwork to Ben's face, watching closely. The way his son moved, the confident flick of his wrist, the fierceness in his gaze. All of it was a testament to the growth he had not just wished for, but hoped could exist. But as blooms of color took form on the canvas, the undercurrent of fear intensified. What if Ben outshone him? What if, in allowing this creativity to flourish, he risked becoming obsolete? It was a potent realization that gnawed at Jack's core. Yet, could the resolution to these unsettling thoughts lie in affirming Ben's brilliance, not stifling it? Let me add a few strokes to the center. We could build off that explosion of colors, Jack said tentatively, sensing the weight of that decision ringing in the air. His heart raced with the dichotomy of anxiety and exhilaration. His own fears clashed against the need to release control. Okay, but make it bold, Ben grinned, visibly energized by the collaboration. The space around them filled with possibility as Jack began to paint. Each mark he made reflected a silent vow to give Ben the freedom to express, to shine even brighter, regardless of what it meant for their intertwining paths. With every stroke, the canvas transformed into a symbol of burgeoning trust. But with the uncertainty of their growing connection still smoldering, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this moment, while catalytic, might carry consequences they weren't prepared to face. Would every liberated brushstroke deepen their bond or unravel the delicate fabric of their relationship? As the colors merged into a vivid representation of their unified emotions, a fork in the road beneath the surface crackled with potential tension. The weight of realizing how much he was willing to redefine his role pressed against him. Would allowing Ben to take the lead ultimately fortify their connection or expose deeper fractures hidden beneath the vibrant strokes? Jack found himself teetering on the brink of revelation and uncertainty, unaware of the seismic shifts that one bold decision could ignite. With the canvas capturing the momentous intersection of their lives, they both stood before the precipice, hearts racing with anticipation for what lay ahead. The real test was yet to come. Could they navigate this realm of self-discovery without losing their foundational bond? With every brushstroke, Jack relinquished a piece of the old version of himself, the one anchored by expectations and fear. As the colors blended, so too did the layers of his identity peel away, revealing core truths that had long been buried under a facade of control. The act of painting with Ben felt less about artistry and more about rediscovery, about confronting who he was beyond the title of father, artist, or authority. Yet, beneath that exhilarating feeling lingered a persistent whisper of self-doubt. Jack had always prided himself on his ability to guide, his adherence to rules that established his credibility. Now, he found himself embracing chaos, uncertain if this new path would ultimately strengthen their bond or unravel it. Each stroke became a silent negotiation between who he needed to be for Ben and who he aspired to be for himself. What if this all falls apart? He pondered inwardly, the doubts materializing like ghostly shades on the canvas. He could almost see the darker elements of his insecurities reflected in his choices. Where would he be if their endeavor failed? Ben's infectious enthusiasm sparked something in him, igniting a flicker of bravery. "Let me show you how deep we can go with this," Ben said, enthusiasm crackling in his voice. "It's our piece. Together. No limits." The resonance of those words hit Jack like a jolt. What Ben suggested was liberating, yet terrifying. Could they truly traverse this uncharted territory together? Jack hesitated, the internal battle evident in clenched fingers and furrowed brow. Would allowing his son that freedom only deepen Jack's isolation, leaving him standing on the sidelines of their shared creation? A series of rapid strokes laid claim to the canvas as Ben infused the piece with radiance and life. Jack observed him with admiration. His son didn't just paint, he embodied fulfillment, creativity spilling from him like water breaking through a dam. Jack's heart ached with pride, yet a gnawing fear remained. Was this evolution a threat to their relationship, or a necessary metamorphosis? "Let's incorporate that bold yellow you just used," Jack suggested, his voice steady, with more conviction than he felt. He was taking a chance, but it was essential, his desire to empower Ben overshadowing his inherent fears. Maybe it was time to trust this creative journey, not just for the art's sake, but for both their sakes. Jack's brush brushed against Ben's when they both moved to add a burst of color simultaneously. An electric connection jolted through him, a moment of synergy igniting unexpected joy. It was almost magical, this collision of ideas, even amid the chaos. Their synergy mirrored a silent agreement. They were co-pilots, navigating through the uncertain skies of creativity. "See?" Ben smiled brightly, his eyes lighting up with pure joy. "It's better when we both engage like this." "Absolutely," Jack admitted, warmth swelling in his chest at the affirmation of their bond. Amid the vibrant chaos taking form on the canvas, Jack realized this was more than just an artistic endeavor. It was a testament to the complexity of their relationship. The act of creating together was forging a new narrative, a blend of trust, fear, and exhilaration. It wasn't just about painting anymore. It represented their evolution into something neither had envisioned. But as the final strokes fell into place, Jack felt the tremors of another revelation shaking through him. What would happen when this burst of creativity faded? What would remain? Could the depths of their artistic journey salvage a connection threatened by the very nature of growth? Their canvas transformed into a kaleidoscope of emotions, but Jack lingered on the gnawing question that would shadow him even in triumph. Could he truly embrace this newfound dynamic, knowing that change often comes with a price? As the day drew to a close and the studio light dimmed, Jack glanced at the painted chaos and then back at Ben, who seemed invigorated by their collaboration. Uncertainty loomed before him, casting shadows over the vibrant creation. With the thrilling adventure of their self-exploration ahead, Jack understood that the resolve of their burgeoning relationship hinged on the choices that lay before them, ones that could either solidify their bond or push it to the brink. The moment hung heavy in the air as he confronted the truth he was still unwilling to fully acknowledge. Facing that choice could very well dictate the course of their lives. How far was he prepared to go, and at what cost would this journey take him? The next morning brought a thick fog that shrouded the house, dulling the vibrant colors of their recent masterpiece, yet amplifying the uncertainty that loomed in Jack's mind. As he brewed coffee, his fingers trembled with a mix of anticipation and dread, each sip echoing the internal tug-of-war that began to define his mornings. He watched Ben prepare for school, the way he hummed to himself, lost in thought. The boy carried an air of unyielding enthusiasm, and Jack envied that innocence, the conviction that everything was possible. Could he share that optimism? Could he trust that their relationship, transformed by their shared creativity, would weather the complexities ahead? "Mornin', Dad!" Ben greeted him with a bright smile that sliced through Jack's melancholy. The boy had a knack for drawing out the joy in mundane moments. "Morning, buddy. Ready for another day?" Jack asked, forcing a lightness he didn't completely feel. "Absolutely. We're going to start working on our presentation for art class today. I can't wait to show everyone what we made." His excitement was palpable, electrifying and infectious. But as Ben spoke, a wave of conflict swept over Jack. What if the presentation didn't encompass the weight of their experience? What if it fell flat and left Ben feeling disappointed or exposed? What if they don't get it? Jack found himself blurting, the doubt spilling out before he could catch it. "Our piece, it's—" Ben's expression shifted, confused by the sudden crack in his father's enthusiasm. "Dad, it'll be awesome. Remember, we made it together. It means something different for everyone." Jack opened his mouth, struggling to find the right words, yet feeling a choking sense of vulnerability. He feared losing the boy to the very growth he was trying to nurture. That sunlit future, once so cheerful, now appeared cloudy. "It's just, sometimes I wonder..." "Wonder what?" Ben cocked his head, the sincerity in his eyes unfurling a base level of faith in his father. "What if I'm not the right person to teach you? What if it all unravels?" Jack's stamped-out doubts morphed into fears, words crossing the threshold into uncharted territory. The vulnerability of saying it aloud felt foreign, yet liberating. Ben studied him intently for a moment, a soft intensity radiating from his small frame that made Jack's heart swell. "Dad, you are that person. You're my dad. You're always right here, and you can do anything, just like the painting." Jack's heart raced as he processed those words. A child's unwavering belief in a parent is often both a weight and a breath of new life. It revealed a truth about his own self-image. He had created a wall around his confidence that prevented growth, both in himself and in Ben. The painting, their emotional tapestry, was not these walls. They were the very essence of their intertwined existence. "Okay," Jack nodded, adrenaline pushing him to confront his fears. "Let's make sure our presentation tells our whole story." Ben's contagious smile returned, and Jack felt buoyed on a surge of resolve. Art, in its purest form, was a way to explore vulnerability, to speak truths hidden behind masks. It would not be perfect, but it would be real, worth sharing even with its scars. By the time Ben left for school, a new determination lit in Jack's chest. He resolved to channel the remaining energy into a functional strategy. He needed to create, not just on the canvas, but also in expressing how the dynamic between them had morphed. As the day unfolded, each brushstroke in his solitary work became a testament to these revelations, a balance of fear transformed into purpose. But the question remained, would confronting these changes ultimately liberate him, or would it expose hard truths that were better left unexamined? With the fading afternoon light casting ghostly shadows on the walls of the studio, Jack hesitated before picking up his paintbrush once more, fully aware that each stroke could unravel more than just the colors on the canvas. The next step of his journey awaited, tangled with potential loss and renewed hope, unraveling before him like the vastness of his own uncharted identity. What if it was all worth it? What if confronting his deepest fears would become the bridge to a renewed bond with Ben? But as he stood poised with brush in hand, Jack faced yet another pivotal question. Could he paint his way through the storm, or would he drown in the chaos of discovery? The fog began to lift as Jack entered the studio, the vibrant hues from their masterpiece glowing softly in the morning light. This morning, however, held a different energy. A sense of clarity washed over him as he surveyed the results of their labor. The once blank walls now thrummed with a mixture of their personalities, a testament to their journey of rediscovery. Stepping closer to the canvas, Jack marveled at the intricacies they had woven together. Each color spoke not only of creativity, but of a bridge they'd rebuilt, piece by piece, stroke by stroke. He felt no desire to control the narrative anymore. This was an embodiment of their identities, intertwined yet distinct. Jack gathered his breath, preparing to face Ben's classmates later that day, not as a father standing before his child, but as an equal, a collaborator with something profound to share. "Dad, you coming?" Ben's eager voice lured him from his thoughts. Jack looked up to see his son bounding into the room, eyes alight with enthusiasm and anticipation. For the first time, Jack could feel the warmth of pride in his heart without a shadow of self-doubt casting its pall. "Absolutely, I wouldn't miss it for the world," Jack replied, his tone infused with a newfound confidence. As they arrived at the school, Jack observed the bustling energy of the students around them, a sea of youthful ambition and boundless creativity. The atmosphere was electric with opportunities and collaborations. When it was finally time to present their piece, he stood beside Ben, their masterpiece perched provocatively against the wall. "Hello everyone, we're Ben and Jack, and we'd love to share our work with you," Ben began, his voice steady, drawing the attention of the crowd. Jack felt genuine excitement course through him as he saw the pride blooming in his son's demeanor. As Ben spoke, recounting the journey of creation, how they had battled and embraced one another, Jack absorbed every word, realizing the significance of this moment. He stepped in when appropriate, sharing his own perspectives, allowing his vulnerability to weave into the narrative. They painted a picture that transcended mere art. It became a story of connection, of growth, and mutual understanding. As they spoke, Jack felt the weight of expectation give way to authentic engagement. He made space for Ben to shine. Their collaboration illuminated in every glimpse they shared, showing not only how they had grown apart, but how they reclaimed their bond through fear and creativity. When they finished presenting, applause echoed warmly through the room. Jack's chest swelled with pride, but more importantly, he felt a profound sense of belonging. There was no invisible wall between them anymore. Rather, they stood united, father and son working together toward a shared vision, confident in their individuality. After the presentation, Ben turned to him, his eyes sparkling with exhilaration. "Did you see that? They actually got it. It was incredible, Ben. You led that beautifully. I'm proud of you," Jack replied, realizing how genuine pride tasted without the edges of comparison. "I couldn't have done it without you," Ben said, a sincerity in his voice that pulled at Jack's heart. That moment, infused with recognition and understanding, was one Jack had longed for, a true acknowledgement of their transformation, where the past no longer overshadowed their present. "I've learned a lot from you, son. I hope you know that," Jack said, his voice thick with emotion. "Yeah, but you gotta keep letting me lead too." Ben laughed, his youthful exuberance a reminder of the road ahead. Jack nodded, the promise between them tangible, palpable. He understood now. Their future was not about him relinquishing control, but celebrating their individual strengths together. As they drove home, the sunlight streamed in through the windows, illuminating the vibrant colors scattered throughout the car from their paint-splattered clothes. It was a physical reminder of their journey thus far, both chaotic and beautiful, one that would only continue to grow. Jack felt lighter than he had in years. He had faced the shadows of uncertainty and emerged into the light. A father renewed, equipped to support his son's journey while navigating his own path. The future stretched wide before them, filled with possibilities, not confines. "You know, Dad, I think we should do this more often. Collaborate, I mean," Ben suggested, grinning widely. "I agree," Jack replied. "Let's keep creating together." That day marked not just the end of a chapter, but the beginning of an artful exploration shaped by trust, understanding, and love. Jack embraced the road ahead, ready to face whatever challenges came their way, not as an architect bound by rigidity, but as a father willing to grow. They were a newly forged team, ready to paint their futures side by side, one brushstroke at a time. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support our work. Comment your reactions and theories about this heartfelt ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.